Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are starting off with a new series on this channel. And yes, I know there's plenty of other series on this channel that don't have a part 2 on it, but I was just excited to start this new series. And this series we are delving into cryptids. Cryptids are just creatures of the unknown that are said to exist, but they're not proven to be there. So that could range from humanoid creatures to skinwalkers to wendigos to the Loch Ness monster or the chupacabra. Chupacabra or the Wolfman, Mothman. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, it's a vast list. But to start it off with this series, I was wanting to delve into something I know the history about, just because in my life I've heard stories. Growing up in a Hispanic household, you get a lot of scary stories to keep you from being awake too late or listening. So one of the main stories I was told in every Hispanic household was the story of La Llorona. Now we're gonna delve into this, so please bear with me and let's have some fun, and while I give you the story of La Llorona. So let's delve in to the history of cryptids. La Llorona, or in English, is translated to the weeping woman. Now, these stories were passed down to kids, to young adults, even adults would know this story, and it was almost an essence, a technique to put fear into your children. But this technique it had some truth to it. It would instill almost a fear into these kids to behave better or to not stay out late. But were these just stories, or was this story real? Is the La Llorona real? Now, before we get into an eyewitness story, you need to know the story of the Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, however you want to refer to her as. So without further ado, let's get into the story of La Llorona. See, there are many variations of stories that were passed down through many different generations, and with new generations, obviously new versions of the stories have come out. The ones I'm going to read to you today, well, not ones, the one I will read to you today. There are many stories of La Llorona that have been passed down through the generation. Now, the one I'm going to be reading you today is one of the most common ones, but some that people don't even know, because it's common to me, but to other people they might have heard a different tale. So depending on where you live in the world, you might have heard something different. So just be prepared for the story and let your mind take you back to the story of La Llorona. We begin our stories in 1600s Mexico, in a small town, or a pueblo. In this pueblo lived a beautiful woman by the name of Maria. Maria was the most gorgeous woman in the village, and every day without fail, men would try to ask for her hand, but Maria would always say no. You see, Maria didn't want any other regular man to be her husband. Maria wanted a man as beautiful as her, but not only that, a man that would see her worth. Every day, she would come home and cry from all the harassment she would receive, and her heart every day would break piece by piece. Except for one day. On this fateful day, Maria saw the most beautiful man she had ever seen riding on a carriage. By the way he carried himself, Maria knew who she wanted to marry. Of course, the man saw Maria and her beauty and fell for her. They were to be wed soon. After they were married, the man would shower Maria with lots of love and gifts, giving all of his attention to only her. That would soon change because Maria was pregnant. Years go by, and from family of 2, it soon became a family of 4. Throughout this time, the man had started to only give his attention to the 2 boys, showering them with love and gifts, just how he used to do with Maria. You see, Maria loved her 2 kids with passion, but deep within her, she yearned for that attention, that love. The man didn't treat Maria the same. She became an afterthought. Maria's heart was beginning to break again piece by piece. One day, Maria's husband told her he needed to leave town for supplies and he would be back in 3 days. Little did Maria know her whole life was about to change. The 3rd day had arrived and Maria heard the carriage coming. She hurried up and ran outside, joyous to see her husband. But what she saw wasn't what she expected. Her husband was sitting there with a beautiful woman. Her husband looked at her and pledged his life to his new woman because Maria was no longer the beautiful woman she once was. Maria, with pain and rage inside of her, made a decision. She wanted to hurt the man for what he did to her. She would take away the only thing he loves, his children. On one fateful night, Maria wakes her children and tells them that it's time to take a bath. Now the boys were disoriented and confused, but of course they obliged, because they loved their mother. And they got up and followed her. And in the river, it was icy cold. But Maria pulled them within. In one swift movement, Maria drowned her kids. Her two boys, the ones that she carried and loved the most. After drowning her kids into the river and filled with regret and sorrow, she did the only thing that she could think of, and she threw herself into the river to be with her kids. As she had woken up, she was in the spirit form, and she saw God. And God looked at her and said, "You made one of the biggest mistakes, biggest sins that you could ever commit. You took the 2 lives that I had given to you out of jealousy and rage. And for that, you are doomed to walk the earth, forever looking for your kids." Maria became a restless spirit. They say Maria, or La Llorona, has long black hair, a white dress, and wails in pain for her kids, forever looking for them. They say if that she finds you, that she will take you. This is the story that was passed down many generations. Now Maria is said, it is not clearly spoken on what happens when she takes the kids. Some say that she kidnaps them and you can find them, or some say that she does the same thing that she did to her kids. Maria will forever walk this earth looking for her kids. She is known to be seen near water, near riverbeds, near creeks, but not always. So when you hear those cries of "Donde están mis hijos?" or "Where are my kids?" it's because Maria is near. Now that's the story of Maria. That's the story of La Llorona. But is it true? We're gonna get into some eyewitness accounts, some stories of La Llorona, personal accounts. And now, if you have a story of La Llorona, or have you experienced before, have you known somebody that's had an experience, put it in the comments below. Let's get into some eyewitness stories. So this is the first story we're going to be diving into, and it's called "My Mom Saw La Llorona in Mexico when she was 15. Let's get into it. Alright, so this story has been told to me by my mom a few times, and every single time I still get the creepy, eerie feeling that someone is watching me. My mom is from a small town in Mexico located in Zacatecas. When she was around 14, she had a habit of waking her mom up to go to use the restroom, since it was an older home and the restroom was located outside. My mom tells me that it was around 3 a.m. when she woke up and felt the need to use the restroom urgently. So she started calling out for her mom. After a while, her mom was not responding, and she started becoming agitated, started screaming. At this point, my mom turns around, and at the foot of her bed, she sees her mom standing there. She was wearing a white robe, but had a very bleak expression on her face, and both of her arms were extended. My mom said that suddenly felt extremely cold and a huge sense of dread. She had never seen her mom wear a white robe. That's when she looked down and saw her mom's feet weren't touching the floor. At that moment, she screamed and quickly threw the covers over her head. Her mom, wearing something completely different, runs in and finds my mom shaking in her bed. Nobody believed my mom. Everybody told her it was a dream. Until a few days later, there was a power outage. During this time, my mom and her few siblings with her parents all decided to sleep in the living room. At around the same time, at 3 in the morning, they heard the same undeniable wails of La Llorona down the street. None of them slept that night. Man, what a story. Once again, it's the undeniable wails that you can hear, her pretty much signature call. Even the white robe. That is terrifying. You would think you would see them near the water, but being inside your house is terrifying. Let's get to the next eyewitness story. This second story is called "My Experience with La Llorona," and it's of course on Reddit again, but let's get into it. This story was posted on r/paranormal, and it starts like this. I grew up in a small town in Mexico where there are many paranormal stories, which is certain, but the weeping woman is the one that marked me for life. When my maternal grandmother died, I was 15 years old, and my uncles did not want my grandfather to be alone. So I was the one that had to go sleep at my grandfather's house every night and keep him company. One night, after playing soccer with my friends, it was late, and I had nobody to come get me. So I went to sleep at my grandfather's house, and had to cross the dark roads, the river, and the bridge. When I arrived at my grandfather's house, all was normal. My dog was waiting for me. He was the one who gave him the company during the day. A husky, all white and huge. I sat in an armchair next to my grandfather's bed while he watched some news on television. At 11 p.m., he turned off the television and we went to bed. 20 minutes later, my dog started to get restless, barking and squealing and moving a lot, and which is unusual because my dog is not really afraid of anything, and it's had an echo to it. There was a large window between my grandfather's bed and mine and my dog's. My dog was starting to go under the bed and cry. The cries were so strong, it was almost like it was paralyzing you with fear, freezing your soul. Every time I was close to the window, I could not move. After 3 minutes, my dog came out from under the bed and started barking, and the crying was gone. My grandfather laughed and told me it was such a loud woman, and I didn't let him sleep. Your grandfather is insane. To be just chill like that and hearing such a cry and be like, I couldn't sleep. It's insane. But that's the second story, and I think we have time for one more, so we could close this out with the next story. Let's get to it. So this next story is on r/paranormal as well, and it's called My Grandma Followed La Llorona. This is the final eyewitness story I'm going to be reading to close out this video. Let's begin. So this is one of my many stories my mother had passed down to my siblings and I when we were very young. And I'm going to say I was about 9 to 10 years old when they took place in Central America. El Salvador to be precise. My grandma one day was supposed to meet up with my friend to go to another friend's wake. My grandma was waiting for her friend where they had agreed to meet, which happened to be near a little river/creek. She sees this woman from far away, all in white, and my grandma says it looked like her friend. Her name was Mary, so she starts following the woman calling out for her, thinking it's her friend. She followed her by the river and then kept calling out for her, but no answer. As she started getting closer, she started getting a weight on her shoulders. She felt like her head was so big and she couldn't support it anymore. She was close enough to see this woman's face that was covered by a veil. And she said the woman's face was a skull. My grandma somehow came out of her shock and ran as fast as she could. She said she felt as if she was running slow, wasn't getting away fast enough. These stories always give me the chills, but have always been fascinating. She states it was La Llorona, or the weeping woman, because she was walking by the river. They passed it and headed towards some trees. Please let me know if you want to read more of these stories like these. I'll be glad to write some more. Man, that last story, that was insane to actually follow La Llorona on a river unknowingly is so scary. Now, that being said, what do you think? Is La Llorona real or just a hoax? If you have any experiences with La Llorona, please put them in the comments, even if they're not your experiences. Or if you've heard a different story, please let me know. And also, if you want to see a cryptid that you've never seen talked about before, or you have a cryptid in your area that you would like to hear about, let me know and I will make a video just for you. I read these comments and I like almost every other comment. I like every comment, actually. False. I react to each comment and I like each comment. So if you put something down, I will make a video on it. And I'll read more eyewitness accounts and the history of this cryptid. With that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and supporting this channel. It means the absolute world to me. Not only that, just the amount of support I've gotten from you guys is amazing. I can't explain it enough how grateful I am for each and every view I get, for each and every comment I get, and each and every like I get. So thank you. And if you want to see more types of these videos where it's just stories that you can be playing in the background, please let me know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado, this has been History of Cryptids. And if you hear those cries, make sure you lock your doors. Bye.